All right, we're right at 2 o'clock. So we're going to give people maybe 50, 60 seconds before we jump into the content while people are still coming on. So we are recording. You will get a copy of this, which means you will have all the slides. I know that's always a question we have. We love you asking questions, sharing with other people that are here. There is a chat box. If you have the same screen as me, along the bottom of your screen, there's a chat box. There's also Q&A. I will be monitoring both and we will work them in as we can. So first, to make sure that everyone is awake and ready to use the chat box, your first question is, who are you rooting for on Sunday? Are you rooting for the Chiefs? Are you rooting for the 49ers? Or do you really not care? And are you tuning in for Taylor Swift, the commercials, or Usher? So those are your choices. So use your chat box so we can make sure everyone
Wow.
is awake.
Chat looks like it's disabled.
That's not good. We need it to be enabled. Attendees can chat with everyone. Should work now. Now try to chat. Yay!
There you go.
We've got a mix of everything. Eric, who are you rooting for?
I think I'm going Chiefs, but I don't want to offend anyone on the call. So
Well, I don't think we should have done a franchise squares, had people buy into squares, give the money to charity. We've got a great mix. I'm always there for the snacks. So that's what I'm there for. Yay. I love this. So everyone will hopefully have a great game on Sunday, but the chat is working. So again, thank you for everyone for jumping on. We will be recording. You will get this session sometime next week. It will come to you. And with that, I think it's time to get started. I am Michelle Rowan. I'm the president here at Franchise Business Review, and I am joined by our fearless leader, Eric Stites, who is the CEO of Franchise Business Review. And we are going to be sharing the 7 lowest scores. And this is from the research that we've done over the last year. It included almost 400 brands and about 37,000 responses from franchisees. So we are going to just get into it, Eric. You start sharing the data, but before you start doing the low areas, that's when I'm going to pull everybody to get their guesses.
I thought you were gonna sing "Highway to the Danger Zone" as the kickoff. No?
No, that's on your slide.
Oh, sorry. Well, welcome everybody. We have a great turnout today. It's I'm glad to see everybody's here. I know there's still more people coming in. Um, I'm Eric Stites with Franchise Business Review, as Michelle mentioned. Before we get into those kind of challenge danger areas, want to start with some high level positive notes to lead things off. So we've been tracking franchisee satisfaction for almost 20 years in the industry. And franchisee satisfaction is pretty good overall. So when we look at what franchisees say about just being in business, enjoying the business that they're in, 86% agree with that. So again, if you think about the metrics of anybody's enjoyment of anything these days, 86% is pretty darn high. When we look at do they enjoy being part of their franchise organization, again, 83% agree that they want to be part of their franchise organization. So again, 8 out of 10 franchisees, very positive. When we ask them, would they recommend their brand to others from a franchise standpoint, so to franchise candidates, 3 out of 4, yes. So again, overall, things look great. Those numbers have been fairly consistent for the last few years. What was interesting is actually during COVID, franchise satisfaction went up, which was a surprise to us, but I think it makes sense when we think about, during COVID, certainly I think a lot of people were happy to be part of a large brand and have that corporate support behind them. And they saw what happened to small business owners that weren't part of franchise organizations. So again, I think very positive numbers overall. When we look at overall satisfaction and ask franchisees how they rate that in their franchisor, 63% give it a positive rating. So seeing a pretty big drop there right out of the gate. So what we want to talk about today is what are those kind of key factors that influence that overall satisfaction. Obviously, like we said, they enjoy being part of the brand and enjoy the business that they're in. But there's friction in a number of key areas. And we want to help you identify that within your own system, but then also figure out some strategies to address some of those things. So what we're going to do, and we won't basically have any, I don't want to give away the, this, the details. So Michelle's going to have a quick poll here.
Yeah. So if you want to answer the poll that just popped up, we're asking you to guess what you think the lowest rated section is when answered by franchisees. So your options are the financial opportunity, technology, marketing and promotions, or field support. So we're going to get into all 7, but wanted to just kind of get your feedback as far as what you think is going to land on this list as the lowest rated, looking at the numbers that have voted. Give you 30 more seconds. It's got a good split here. All right, Eric. It looks like the winner by just a hair is financial opportunity. They think that's what was rated the lowest.
I see that. I see that. That's interesting.
So I
Definitely
shared
on the list.
I shared the results. Yeah, it is on the list. So I shared the results, and now you can start singing or you can start your slide. Up to you.
I'm not going to sing. I don't know about you. Dun, dun, dun. Drum roll, maybe?
Sure.
All right. Number 1, lowest rated area. So whoever answered that got it right, right?
They got it right. So high five for you guys that got that answered marketing and promotions. It is the lowest score that we see on the survey. So I think so the idea of this was sharing what they are, but also to giving you some ideas from our group of franchisors that we work with and just kind of our bird's eye view of everything that's going on here. So I think a lot of this has to do with, from the very beginning, what is promised to them in that process of them going through learning about your franchise system. So how is your sales team talking about the way that the franchisor helps to get people in the door, helps you retain customers, and also the importance of the franchisee taking responsibility for also being part of their communities. So I think there's a huge opportunity just to set really good expectations from the beginning as far as what kind of support is received for the fee specifically, but also just in general. And then having your operations team understand what was promised to them to make sure that they're delivering on it. So I think just being really clear, what is the franchisor responsible for under that whole umbrella of marketing? And what is the franchisee still obligated to do, or should they be doing to help build customers to come in their doors? The next is that every business owner, my husband and I, we own a brewery here in Kittery. No matter if you're in a franchise system or not, it's really important that you're part of your local community, and that is part of marketing. I think it's very easy for franchisees to say marketing is not working. My local community is different than that one. But the idea is that you need to teach your franchise owners how to network, how to get out in their communities, and how that supports the strategy and the pieces that are in place. There's no digital ad that is going to work to just keep building your business while you sit back and take care of the customer. It's all part of getting them in the door. And then what are you doing as a franchisee and with your team to get repeat business, to get those people back in the door, to knock their socks off so that they want to stay a loyal customer. So I think marketing, it's an easy thing to say, I want more from the franchisor, but I think it's a very complex topic. I think being clear from the start is important, but also to tapping into your field support people when they're in the locations or when they're visiting franchise owners. I think that it's really an easy thing for them to say, well, I don't take care of marketing, so I'm just going to kind of shove this aside. But that's your best way to understand early on that someone is struggling, that they're either struggling to implement the marketing, they're not spending what you're telling them or asking them as a minimum spend, to kind of raise the alert and say, if this is not something our marketing team can get involved and help you and educate you on what you need to be doing, maybe there's an outside resource that's not within the agreement of how we support you, but finding ways to help that franchisor before it gets to the point where there are no customers. So I think just tapping into the connection between your marketing or operations team to kind of raise the flag and help franchisees before it's to the point where they can't really do much and they expect some magic marketing piece to fix everything that is dwindling. So that's my insight on the first one there. Eric, I'll go over to you for the next one.
Good one. Well, the other piece too that I wanted to touch on too is, I mean, obviously these 7 areas are critical areas, but when we talk about kind of that performance gap, that gap between the lowest rated companies and the highest rated companies is significant. So this slide actually shows all of these pieces, whether it's marketing, technology, innovation, and so on. The red bars represent those that are in our top quartile brands, and then the gray bars represent the bottom quartile brands. And so, again, huge gaps here. And I guess the message we'd like everybody to take away is like all the items that we're going to give you as kind of tips and techniques to address some of these issues. It's not rocket science. And if you can apply some of these things, you can move the needle significantly in these areas and get, from, that maybe the lower quartile or whatever quartile you fall into and get it up to, that top quartile. Again, it's not, these aren't things that cost thousands and thousands of dollars to implement. It's just a lot of it is just communication, which is the last item on the list as well. And we'll get to that. But then really talking about number 2 on the list is effective technology. Technology is a broad topic. You're talking about everything from social media, marketing, other marketing technologies, financial technologies, communication technologies, all sorts of things, operating technologies, POS systems, you name it. So again, a very broad topic. The thing that's interesting is I think technology frustrates all of us at some point in our lives. And so, that struggle of technology is something that's, just part of our lives, and especially I think for older generations, I don't want to say we struggle with technology for sure.
Yeah.
But young people definitely embrace technology more so than younger people. And that's an important thing to keep in mind because within a lot of your franchise systems, I would guess that many of your franchisees look more like me than Michelle, or younger generations even. So understanding that and understanding how people use technology is really important when you think about all the technologies in your franchise system, and there's a lot of them. So just a couple of thoughts on that.
I want to add to that too, Eric, in that I don't think I've ever seen a big technology change happen in a franchise system where the franchisees have rated it well. And I
Right,
think,
right,
to your communication point, just saying that, like, technology changes are hard and they're expensive and they're not something that happen overnight. I think if you kind of start with that with franchisees, they'll give you a little bit more grace as you kind of work through it. But it
right.
always takes longer. It always costs more. It always is harder because of the change management piece. And so I think if you just say, like, we're going to put on our helmets and get through this, but
Right.
here's how it's going to look or how it's going to help us on the other side, can just kind of alleviate some of the bumps that you're bound to hit through that transition.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the one of the themes you're going to hear us talk a lot about today is expectations and setting expectations correctly. And that begins in the franchise development process. And so making sure that your franchise development team is, really preparing franchisee candidates in the right way so that when they do join your system, go through training and operations and all that stuff, that their expectations are aligned and realistic, and then fostering that all the way through the franchisee life cycle is, again, setting clear expectations, and communicating those expectations, which we'll talk a lot about.
Well, and I think this is a good point, good place for me to launch the second poll that we have. So you have one more chance to weigh in as far as how involved is your operations team with that candidate or with that choice of the candidate? So how well do you know what is being prepped? Do you have the option to red card a candidate to not come in, or do you get to weigh in, but it really ultimately weighs on it? We were at a development conference earlier this week and asked this question. It's getting way better that the operations team has more say in those candidates, but you're inheriting them. So being very clear as far as what's being told to them, but also to being clear with your leadership team that this is a franchisee that you see being successful in your system should definitely weigh into the decision whether or not this is the right cultural fit for you all. So we've got a split here. Give everybody like 10
The
more seconds.
numbers keep jumping around quite a bit, but it
I
seems like the vast
know.
majority, the final decision is with Dev,
Yeah. So
which is really hard when somebody's waving a check at you and you don't want to say no, obviously, but
yeah. Yeah. So there you go. There's the answer on that one.
yeah, so it's almost 50% have Dev has the final decision. So
Yep. Yep.
So just going back to as how this ties into the technology piece is, again, one of the things that we look at is, the obviously the training process and how franchisees come on into your system and onboarding, and they're drinking from the fire hose at that point, and you've got marketing presenting different technologies and your ops team presenting different technologies. And so what I would encourage you to do is try and keep those into manageable short sessions, hit the high points, and just know that you're going to train, retrain, and retrain over and over again. It's going to take people, even with the simplest technologies, it's going to take people a while to understand how those technologies work, and what's, how that impacts their day-to-day business. The other piece of that I would say is, keep it simple. I mean, that's a theme obviously throughout franchising, but there's so many technologies today, and we're all reliant on those technologies. But at the end of the day, does it really impact your business or your franchisee's business? And so I think you really have to be careful when introducing any technology, whether it's something that enhances email communication, Slack, those sorts of things, whether it's an enhancement to the POS system or to your consumer app, social media, whatever it is really test with test it with franchisees and really assess, is this going to make a difference? Because the simpler the better, and if it's not really going to move the needle, then I would say don't implement it. And lastly, I would say is that really evaluate the return on investment on any technology. I mean, all these technologies are great, but they cost money. And at the end of the day, franchisees want to know, okay, how is this impacting my bottom line? Is it actually going to help me increase sales and increase profitability? And if not, what's the point? I mean, yeah, it's great technology, and maybe it enhances their efficiency in the business, but again, if it can't move the profitability needle, then I would say, you don't need it. So think about those, whenever you're, bringing on new technology, as well as evaluating your existing technology and what you can get rid of and just help simplify.
Yeah. And I think around the technology piece too, you got to sell it to your franchisees. You got to really get them on board as much as possible, but also you need to push your vendor with being a good help desk, being a good partner as far as working through those bugs and supporting the franchise owners. So that's where you can really tap into your vendor partners to do that. Dale made a great comment about the biggest challenge and kind of that rub between ops and dev is that dev might feel like ops is pulling money away if they turn down a candidate. I think we're seeing a lot more team type of bonus structures where the development team isn't comped specifically on a deal, but more of bringing different metrics. That's one thing that was talked about last week at the development conference, Leanne's Let's Grow franchise assembly one. And then the other thing that we're seeing too is that the comp is not paid all up front. That part of the comp is paid when the franchisee candidate comes on board, and the rest is comped at the year mark, 6-month mark, based on the performance or the culture fit of that franchisee. So that can also impact the way development people choose or recommend people that are coming in, if they know that the end comp is much better if they find that right fit for your brand. Just some ideas to try and help around that.
Yeah, and some would argue, I certainly would, that operations should be getting that bonus. So obviously, if you're talking about a franchisee and increasing their performance, operations should be able to participate in some revenue sharing there as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. And we know we have some clients that they don't comp their development team on a commission basis. It's totally bonus structured in a different way. So there's ways you can change it. All right. Should we move on to innovation?
I think so.
Eric, you're the only person that can talk with me. So if we're ready to move on. Okay. So innovation, what does innovation mean in your brand? You guys should be talking about this. And I think one that we get a lot when I talk to clients that are more of like the 50-year-old brand or really well known for that product or that service that they do is they say, we don't want to be innovative. But innovative doesn't mean running new promos, putting new products and services out to your customers all the time. It can mean whatever you define it within your culture. But if you don't innovate, there's no way your business that worked 100 years ago would work in today's environment. So talking with your franchisees about the way that your team is focused on innovation, is it the way you do business? Is it the way that you support them? There's a lot of opportunity, especially, I mean, you just think about the way that AI has come into everything that we do, every conversation. How can it be used to better support your franchise owners? How can they use it to better support their businesses? Or even just preparing them for what the risk is around things that are coming into their markets or into their business. So innovation is really, how do you stay on top of what you're doing to help your franchisees continually grow? And that's how you talk about innovation with your system. So I get the legacy brand, you have that product, you're not looking to turn it into, let's say if you're a breakfast restaurant, you don't want to offer dinner, but that's not the only way that innovation shows up in franchising. So I think that there's a lot around there that you can kind of define what is the thing that won't change and is the core of your business and who you are as a brand. And then there's all the other ways you do things or help people that can fall into that innovation category.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Michelle, too, is that, I mean, this is an area where if you look at your data, assuming many of you are FBR clients, is to slice that by franchisee tenure. And it's very interesting when you look specifically at a question like innovation. When you think about those more senior franchisees in your system, those are the ones where innovation is really going to make a difference because, again, when they first join the system and they're learning all that you have to teach them, they understand the value of the fees that they're paying you and royalties and so forth. When they've been with you for 4, 5, 6, 10 years, what are you doing to encourage that or foster that growth of those franchisees and their businesses? And so obviously showing them all the innovative techniques and things that you're doing to, again, doesn't necessarily need to be new products, new services. It might be new ways of doing business. But really, just showing those franchisees that this is, continuing to grow and change and innovate and be a better business than it was, 5, 10 years ago when they invested. Next on the list is involving franchisees, which is definitely something we hear about a lot.
Yes.
And what I want everybody to kind of keep in mind is when someone is considering going into franchising, there's a certain personality type that's attracted to franchising, and they're not the lone wolf kind of entrepreneur, do it yourself kind of person. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And it's interesting when you go back to the early days of the development process and when candidates are talking to your brand and going through discovery day, and there's so much interaction, and then they get open and they're out operating their business, if you can't continue to build on that engagement, often franchisees can feel isolated. And so looking for ways throughout your system to engage franchisees, get them involved, keep them involved. Obviously, just the FBR survey is a great way to continually ask for their opinions and feedback, whether it's an annual survey, whether it's a pulse survey that we can do, whether it's a follow-up survey from training and support, anything like that. That's great just to keep that feedback coming and going. But again, beyond that, look for additional ways to get franchisees involved and make sure that, I think most brands would say, oh, we talk to our franchisees all the time. Well, what happens a lot in systems is you're talking to franchisees, but you happen to be talking to the same franchisees over and over again. So make sure that you're diversifying who you're engaging with, and getting opinions from the newer people that are just came through training 6 months ago versus training 10 years ago. Some of the more mature franchisees or multi-unit franchisees for different perspectives. Certainly engaging those people that are unhappy for whatever reason is a great way to help kind of tone that anger or dissatisfaction down and say, hey, help us out here. Let's work on this together. So looking for opportunities to engage different franchisees in a diverse group of franchisees. Setting up committees. I mean, obviously, many franchise organizations have franchise advisory councils, but within that, there's all sorts of opportunities for subcommittees, working groups within that to get more and more franchisees. So don't just have your favorite 5 or 10 people sitting on your advisory council that you go to all the time, or some people have like a president's club or top performers club. Look for ways to engage other franchisees in some of these committees, subcommittees, working groups. You have a new POS system, going back to the technology issue. Have franchisees participate in that process of picking the POS system out and testing it. Great opportunity for a working group. And just listening to those franchisees and hearing all the day-to-day experiences that they have is so important, because again, they're your connection to the front lines and how your business is changing over time. And then one of the other things that is just a really easy thing to do, and I know a number of our clients do it, is just that personal reach out. So whether it's franchisee's birthday. We have a client that knows the birthday of their franchisee's spouse, and often like the birthdays of their children. Great opportunities to just reach out and say, hey, how you doing? Certainly webinars, listening sessions on a regular basis from senior management. Because again, it's just that, you have franchisees that join your system when you're smaller, and as you grow, they start to feel like they don't have as much weight. And so having those opportunities for franchisees to engage all levels, senior management all the way down, is important. So just think about how you can do that within your system. And again, a lot of these things are just real simple strategies that you can implement tomorrow.
Yeah, I would say what I see most often in this area is franchisees will complain the franchisor goes to the same franchisees all the time. So not
Yeah.
only just doing the things that Eric is saying, but also communicating out that to the network, how you're involving these different ways. And I completely echo what he said. Bring your noisy ones in to be part of the conversation. It really does help them see that you're not kind of pushing them away because they have a differing opinion. Get everybody's feedback involved in it. And then kind of when you go back with your why you made a decision or why you do something, they know that you're not just steamrolling them, that you have taken that opinion into consideration. So the job as the franchisor is to grow the overall brand. And sometimes you get so focused on that, the franchisees don't see all the way that they're being involved. So just take a minute to shed, it's like an internal PR campaign, I say sometimes, just shed a little light on the ways that you're getting franchisees involved or what opportunities people have to get involved. Don't let them say, I hate it when they choose neutral. Like, I don't know if they're involved or not. Like, that is, raise your hand if you want to be involved. Here's the ways you can be involved. You can't expect everyone else to take care of the feedback. Get involved and be part of it. So I think there's a little bit of ownership on the franchisee as well to get involved.
Yeah, and I love Stephanie's comment in the chat about most franchise agreements last longer than most marriages. So the importance of maintaining that personal relationship is obviously critical, and those little things can go a long way.
Yes. And also too, Stephanie's comment about innovation will come from the person that's in front of your customer serving the need. So keep your ears open. There's always some missed opportunities if you're not listening to what franchisees are doing in their market. All right, financial opportunity performance. This came up. You guys guessed it was the biggest one, and it's not. And everyone says when we talk to them, I don't need to do a survey. My franchisees make money; they're happy. It's not always the biggest thing that they're looking for. We did a survey with Entrepreneur, and it's like 79, I think, % of franchisees choose a franchise based on the lifestyle components that it meets, not the financial. So this is not the most important part. It is still in the bottom 7. I think a lot of this has to do, again, we're going to go back to the expectations that are set up from the beginning. I didn't do a poll in here to ask who has an item 19. If you don't, it's become a strong sales tool for whatever reason in the last 10, 15 years. They're not all created the same. So there is something that you are able to put in that document to at least give candidates a sense of how to start looking at the financial expectations. If you can't give them that information, coach them on what questions they should be asking your franchise owners to get a real picture. What does it take? What does it look like to break even in this business? The other thing is your FDD is updated and published once a year. If COVID taught us nothing else, a lot can happen before you change those numbers in that FDD. It is crucial for you to talk about delays to construction, harder to get real estate, products and services of people creating these spaces. Those are all changing a lot quicker than you're updating in anything that you're doing for a representation. So coach them through how to get at that. The best thing you can do is scare the bejesus out of them and have them be pleasantly surprised when they break even sooner. The other thing is your operations team should be focused on getting those franchisees to break even. That is the best way that you can get them to have money to reinvest in their business. So looking at that break even time and cost to break even is so crucial, and giving them markers to let them know that they're on track or if they're behind their goals. It's really important to have them involved in that from the very beginning. So I think it's important just to kind of think about the person that you're trying to bring into your brand as a family member that is investing their entire life into your brand. Treat them with empathy and treat them with information that's going to help them make the best decision and be the most prepared so that they can make it to that successful point in your franchise system.
Well said. I would echo all of that. So number 6 on the list was operations and systems. And so what I would like to do is in the chat, just do a quick informal poll. I didn't put this in as a poll question, but how many of you have a change going on in your system right now? Just type in yes if you have a change.
I was going to say, have people say no if they don't, because
Yeah, or no if you don't. Yeah. So I see a lot of yeses. I'm not seeing any no's yet, but obviously change is constant, right? And change management is a huge thing. And one of the interesting things when you think about, again, the typical profile and personality of someone that's attracted to franchising, and again, there's lots of different personality types out there, but again, most people are investing in your system because you've got established systems, operations, procedures, and all of that. And you in your selection process, you look for those stable, kind of follow the operations manual type of people. That's every franchisor wants. Just follow the system, right? So you're naturally just selecting these types of people And what we don't, the flip side of that is that you don't actually realize is that those people like stability. They get attached to those operations and procedures. So change scares the hell out of them and frustrates the hell out of them. So in the selection process, we're getting rid of all those kind of like crazy entrepreneurial people that want to change your system and purposely selecting these people that want to follow a system. But then those same personalities also have issues with change management. So that's something to just really think about and train your staff, because again, change is constant on how to accurately or effectively go through a change management process. And it can be tiny little changes. It could be a huge, like we talked about earlier, a big technology change. New POS system is huge, but even tiny little changes can throw huge ripples into your system. Um, so again, going back to setting those expectations, talk about this with franchisee candidates. Talk about the fact that your business is constantly changing. And that's what, part of their royalty fees is going to is your constant building and reinventing the wheel and reinventing processes, and talk to them about their comfort with change and how they embrace change. And that may give you some insights into candidates. Not that you're going to kick anybody out of your system because of that, but understanding those personality profiles can help you with your communication strategies. And I know a lot of people do franchisee profile or personality profiles as part of their due diligence on a candidate before they become a franchisee. Going back to those profiles and looking at your system and understanding, okay, these people are kind of in this box and these people are in this box, that can really help when we're talking about changing systems and operational procedures as to how to communicate those changes, when to communicate, when to reinforce. And that will really help you at the end of the day. And with that, I mean, again, a lot of this ties into our last bullet, which I'm going to let Michelle
Yeah, and
wrap with.
yep, and I'm going to hop in and just answer some of the questions that have popped up. So Diane asked about the operational procedure and systems. So we ask these standard questions of all franchise systems that do their survey work through us. And so the idea is, how do you benchmark a franchise system that has no physical space versus a service? So it is meant to be that kind of high level ask. So the way that it's worded on the survey is, how would you rate your operational procedures and systems? And then in quotes, it says daily operating procedures, business systems, and processes. I know, Diane, you've been through this with other companies that you've been part of. Clients can customize it so they can get more granular in those daily processes and operations, but that is what we've come up with in the way to benchmark it across it. There was another question that came in that asked about, does the lowest 7 scores change based on, I don't remember, size of the system, experience of the franchisee, and investment size? So those are all great questions, not anything that we look at in an aggregate way. We do not capture a franchisee experience before they become a franchise owner. I think that's what you're asking in our standard survey. We don't ask them what they were doing before, so we wouldn't be able to do that. We can look at it by investment size, and we can look at it by the size of the franchise system. We haven't, but that is
Yeah,
something
the size we have, and that it is consistent that these
okay.
issues, whether it's a large system, very large system, or some of the smaller systems that are out there, these issues carry through.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because I didn't know that. And then the last one, I really feel like we've kind of covered it, and all these other pieces is system-wide communications. The thing that I would say around here is, especially if you're bringing in executives that were not in franchising, which I think is great. I think that franchising has a lot to learn from people that are just really good at business to come in and lead your companies. But if they don't understand franchising, somebody put it in the comments, franchising is all about relationships. And the major difference between a franchise system, a CEO of a franchise system versus a CEO of a company, it's a lot easier to get employees in line when you tell them what to do and they react and do it. With franchisees, you really got to spend a lot of time selling it to them, the why, getting them on board, because if not, you're setting your team up to just fight them. They're going to push back on everything. If they're not bought into what your idea is, you just spend so much more time trying to drag them along than really spending the time to get them aligned with you and pushing your change through. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other is, I think we hear more about being over communicated to. So a lot of times teams don't have insight into, I'm getting out what my department thinks is very important for my franchisees, and I've got to get it out. But you have 3, 4 other departments that are in that same mental space. So if you're not protecting your franchisees with specific days that each team can put stuff out, or we only send urgent things through this channel of communication, if you're not asking your franchisees the way that they want to be communicated with, if you have owner operators versus semi-absentee or whatever we're calling a multi-unit owner now, are the right people getting those communications? So these are things that you need to think about as you push to get more multi-unit owners in. That will take different types of communications to get the person operating business versus the person that owns the business, different types of information. So I think it's really one easy thing is to just get visibility into all the communications that are coming at your franchisee. And really, how do you tone down that noise? How do you make it available to them when they need to get the information that they need? I think AI is coming in a lot with this, in that you can search different documents and things that you have, but I think that your team can take ownership and just respecting your franchisees that if you look at one of their inboxes, what does that really look like? The amount of times they're being communicated with. And then there's lots of people that can help you. They can do an audit of your communications. If you need any help, we can try and connect you with people that can help you do that. But I think how you say stuff with that intentionality of what you're asking them to do is also important to think about behind the frequency and the way that you're communicating. So I think that's all I have on that bullet, Eric.
Yes, we forgot about our Tom Cruise jokes.
I don't think we should make any jokes, but I don't know how many people have seen, I don't know what the age bracket is of our attendees, but if you haven't seen Top Gun, I mean, it's a gem. The new one is also a gem, but Tom Cruise thoughts aside, in person in that movie it's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So now we've talked about 7 danger areas. Now I want to talk for a few minutes about the 3 areas that really matter. And what we've done is we've looked at all of our benchmark questions and which ones actually correlate to the question of, would I recommend this franchise to others? And so interestingly, it has nothing to do with those 7 danger areas that we just talked about. So these 3 areas is what I would actually tell you to focus on. And they're fairly broad, as we'll see. But first and foremost is, my franchisor cares about my success. Obviously a huge thing. And how do you show that you care about your franchisee's success? A lot of that obviously ties into those 7 areas we just talked about: communications, marketing, technology, all that support. And just, maintaining that personal relationship. So again, how do you show? I would ask that to your entire team. How do we show our franchisees that we care about their success? And how can we improve that? Because that can be huge. And again, marketing's a challenge, communication's a challenge, technology is a challenge, and those challenges are always going to be there. But if your franchisee feels that you really care about helping them be successful in business, a lot of that noise will go away. So I think that's a great exercise to work through with your team and franchisees to get ideas on, how to move the needle in that area. Related to that, I trust and respect my franchisor. Again, these are the things that are going to really move the needle as far as whether a franchisee is going to recommend you to a future candidate or not.
Or buy into your very expensive changes you're asking them to.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why are we going through? What do you mean we got a new POS system, or what do you mean we got a new marketing campaign? Like, I trust my franchisor. They've got my back and they care about my success. So, um, obviously, very big areas. And then lastly, and this goes back to the comments about really setting those clear expectations, is my total investment in my business has been consistent with my expectations. Um, and this is that area where, again, maybe not everybody was clear on what this business is going to cost them in the long term, um, as far as both that initial investment to get into the business, but what is that ongoing cost of reinvesting into the business and keeping things growing. And so being very clear with candidates what the investment is in your business and where some of those additional costs can come, and why those costs need to come, and understanding that that's part of business, is that yes, you have to pay XYZ to open your business, but you're going to be continually reinvesting in your business. So again, the clearer you can be on the front end, and the reality is it's going to potentially scare some candidates away, and that's okay, because you want people to come in with their eyes wide open and understand that, yeah, I know what it cost me to get into business. I know, going forward, I'm going to have to continue to reinvest, whether it's reinvesting in marketing or reinvesting in technology or rebranding my location, or rebranding my trucks if I have a mobile business, whatever it might be. um, just having those expectations kind of clear from day one. So those three areas really are areas that everybody should be focused on, and how do we show our franchisees more about how we care about their ultimate success. So
Yeah.
um,
I think also too, just that whole making sure that your corporate team has a mentality of the franchisee is your customer, that you care for them as a customer, that you support them as a customer. I think that it's easy for corporate staff to get frustrated with the interactions with franchisees sometimes, and to just remember to take it back, and that they are your business. So I think that that can start with that, all of these things. But now put it on some good news, because these are ops people, Eric. They're not the ones that are responsible for setting those unrealistic expectations. These are people that are delivering. So the next thing is, I just want to share with everyone is that we just started asking questions about a year and a half ago. So many people were adding custom questions about their field coach, their franchise business coach, whatever you call that role. So many people were asking about it that we have made it part of our standard survey. So it's not as much as the 37,000, but we have 15,000 responses in that benchmark now. And these are the heroes in franchising. These are the people that are out directly supporting your franchise owners, and they are being rated very well. They are the reason that people buy into franchise systems. So we have business coaches helpful and knowledgeable, business coaches accessible and responsive, understands my business and personal goals, and cares about my success. These are all really well rated. So I think that's important too, is to remember to you need to support your field team as well. We do an event in the fall. It is all things operations. It's for CEOs, COOs, VPs, directors, field coaches. And the idea is, how do you teach these people emotional intelligence and hard skills to be really good support for your franchise owners? We also are trying to do more in the HR space, so helping with the recruiting for corporate teams, but also helping franchisees with their challenges around recruiting and retention. So we would love to have any of you join us, and you can ask us for more information on it. But it's great to see just how well respected these coaches are, and that they are getting high marks in most cases in our industry. So if you aren't asking your franchisees for feedback on the value of that role, you should absolutely be doing that, either informally or formally, to just have something to celebrate with these people that work really, really hard. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, franchise operations folks are the hardest working people in franchising.
Yes,
So,
true. Yeah, so we
yeah,
have formal Q&A now. If you guys are feeling brave, if you want to use the Q&A or the chat, you can ask questions. People have been asking them throughout, but we're happy to answer anything that you have on this. And if we can't get you the answer here, we're always happy to follow up with it. But hopefully this has been something that's been helpful to just think about how you can better support your franchise owners and make everybody more successful.
Yeah, and it wasn't a question necessarily, but Ted chimed in on the chat about focusing on profitability, and I think that's definitely obvious, but maybe not obvious in many systems. Is how do you move the needle on profitability with your franchisees, and how do you communicate that? Catherine Munson at Fast Signs, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, came up with new priorities for their brand, and franchisee profitability was number one. And she talked about it all the time, and they talked about it in small meetings, large meetings, regional meetings, conferences. Like, what are we doing to move franchisee profitability? And they set a specific financial goal, and so that made huge impacts in their system. Not only did profitability go up, but the franchisees really felt like, hey, corporate does matter, and it's not just about driving my top line so I can pay more royalties. It's about, how do I be more successful in business, and how do I be more profitable in business? So thank you for that, Ted. And I think that's again, something that you and your teams can all look at, is like, how do we help move the needle in profitability for our franchisees?
Yeah. And Diane, you brought up the operations staff fatigue. So we don't have in our employee data, we do ask about more about burnout than we do on our franchisee side. But I think this is a lot of hangover, I would say, from COVID, and that everybody really went above and beyond to support their franchise owners and make sure those doors stayed open. But now they're so accessible. I feel like your field team, your operations team is on 24/7. They're answering texts. So I think that it's important to put boundaries around that communication from franchisees, or those expectations of response, or when you can reach out to people and how you reach out to people. But as leaders in the organizations, we really need to support our staff. Our FBR staff, we are spread very thin, and I recognize that right now. And it doesn't make anything easier, but until you can get the help you need to kind of alleviate that, it is important to talk about it and recognize it, and then just really support your people in when they need time off, when they need to be other places. But I think if, as leaders, we put those boundaries around when it's okay to respond to people or not respond to people, and then don't ask our people to do things outside of your business hours or have that expectation of them, that's how we start kind of addressing that. But we'd see more of that data on our employee side than in our franchisee data.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Michelle, the COVID thing is a great point, because what happened during COVID, obviously, is a lot of brands went remote with their support. So field coaches weren't going to locations nearly as much, or if at all. And I think that has definitely carried over with a lot of brands. Is franchisors have realized, hey, we can keep our support contact up, but we don't have to have that travel expense associated with that. So I think for a lot of brands, they're not getting that face-to-face time with franchisees that they used to, pre-COVID. Some of that's good. I think, certainly the technology, having a Zoom call more frequently does give you, virtual face-to-face. But there's nothing, there's nothing that replaces being there. So again, when we think about these franchise relationships, you know, maybe you can save money by, doing remote support. But I think for a lot of us, it might be worth that, getting in a car or getting on a plane and going and see that franchisee more frequently. So again, just things to think about within your own system. What is that ratio of support? It certainly, when we did a survey 5, 6, 7 years ago, kind of that ideal number was between 20 and 30 franchisees per field person. Certainly that ratio has gone up in a lot of brands, and people are dealing with 40, 50 plus people. And again, that when you look at that overworked burden, you want to kind of maybe adjust those ratios and bring on additional support staff so that you don't have that kind of burnout, because they are your frontline support for your franchise owners. So just a few more things to think about.
And then we got a question from Ravi Kumar. We do survey internationally. They are in this benchmarking that we're looking at. The majority of the data is coming out of the US and Canada though. So do you want to clarify that? But we do international work as well, and they are in this mix. I think that's it for questions. Hopefully we answered them all. And if not, we're pretty easy to find. Do we have a contact slide, Eric? We're very easy to
We
find.
do have a contact slide.
Yeah, so you can reach out to us directly. We are very big fans of supporting the franchise industry. So if we can help you, please let us know. And if you're not working with us, we would love to get you more insights on your brand and give you some benchmark information so you can reach out to us to find out how. And we'll continue sharing this. That helps make us all better. And we'd love your feedback. You'll get the slides. Let us know what you thought. And thank you everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much. And if you want more information on any of this stuff, just scan the QR code or go to our website at gofbr.com and we can help you.
And Nicole says, go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
Thanks
Thanks, everybody.